Hello friends, I'm back here with another 5-minute Fnatic video, and in this one I wanted to show you guys where to go to turn in your tier 7 and tier 8 gear tokens to get the actual tier sets themselves for transmog or for whatever other reasons you wanted to do it. Anyway, where you need to go for this is in Dalaran itself, so up in Northrend. And when I'm talking about tier 7 or 7.5, what I'm referring to are the raid instances Naxxramas, Sartharion's Lair, also known as Obsidium, Sanctum, and the Vault of Archavon, which is found here in Wintergrasp. And then if I'm talking about tier 8 and 8.5, that is all found up in Ulduar, way up here in the Storm Peaks. So you might be wondering, what's the difference between 7 and 7.5 or 8 and 8.5? Well, the only difference back then, and how it still applies today, is by raid difficulty itself. It had nothing to do with the normal heroic or mythic versions. There was none of that back at level 80. All level 80 raids were just based on 10 or 25 player. So I guess you could look at it as if the 25 player was a little bit more difficult than the 10 player. So you can actually get yourself 2 sets of tier 7 gear, one 10 player version and one 25 player version. The 10 player version is what I would call tier 7. The 25 player version is what I'd call 7.5. The only difference between the two is that the 25 player has a little bit higher item level and it has a different color than the tier 10 stuff. So the tier 7 stuff, the 10 player items. And so I'll kind of show you guys that right now. But how it's going to work is you would go to a vendor based on which type of gear you can equip. So if you're a druid or a rogue, you'd be equipping leather. Same with if you were a hunter or a shaman, you'd be equipping mail, and that's all found here in the Eventide down here in Dalaran. Whereas if you're a mage, a priest, or a warlock, you'd go here in Runeweaver Square. Or if you're a death knight or a warrior, you'd go up here into Magus Commerce. Of course, the other classes, there is no tier 7 or 8 gear because those other classes don't exist yet, like the monk or the demon hunter. But where you go is you go into Langram's Leather and Links to kind of turn in some gear. And I do have one piece of tier 7.5 gear here, the gloves, which of course is referring to the 25 player raid, Sartharion's Lair. So who I'd want to talk to is this Valerie Langram girl for leather. And so it'd be the same thing for rogues and druids. You talk to it and you would only see the gear that you would have. Like it doesn't show the rogue gear on here. It just shows the druid stuff. So you could pick a different specialization if you want. The only difference is it's going to be between the stats. The item stats itself doesn't affect the transmog gear. It's just, like I said, the stats. So intellect is compared to agility. Agility, which would be found on the guardian spec or the feral spec. And intellect would be found on the balance spec or the restoration spec. So like I said, those don't matter so much. So I would just pick a feral balance or a feral piece of gear unless I was kind of like at level 80. Then those stats matter. But if you're looking for transmog gear, then what you really pretty much want to do is you just kind of want to search through these little tokens, and you'll see the difference here is going to be, oh look, here's the Dreamwalker hand grips, and here's the Dreamwalker hand grips down here. So that's the tier 7 we're looking at. Here's tier 7.0, I guess you call it, or just tier 7, which is item level 200, like I was saying. And now here's the item level 213. So like I said, the only difference is going to be the stats and the item level and the item color itself. So here's what the tier 10 or the tier 7 looks like on just 10 player. It's kind of like this purplish bronze hue. Same model for the tier 7.5. Sorry, so many numbers I'm saying. Tier 7.5. It's these right here. So it's kind of the greenish, goldish look as compared to the purplish, bronzish look. So I do have a tier 7.5 gear right now, so I would just kind of click over it because you can see I don't have the actual what I need to turn it in, so it's kind of highlights black on my little cursor. But I do have what I need for this one, so I'd click on the gloves, I'd exchange it, and there we go. Now I have it in my bags, and there's the item look. It's the tier 7.5. I keep saying 2.5, but that's who you'd go to if you wanted to exchange your leather. And it's the tier 8 is in the same spot as well. You just go back to these ones. Here's the tier 8, the Valorious Nightsong hand grips. They kind of look like this goldish look. And then there's the actual where's the other one here? Conqueror's Nightsong hand grips, which is the tier 8.5. So it's the purplish color. So you got tier 8 and 8.5. Now, the only other thing I wanted to show you guys is if you were a hunter or a shaman, you'd be going to this guy. But as you can see, since I'm not either of those classes, I can't see any of the gear. So you'll only be able to see the vendors that are respective to the gear that you can wear. So I'll show you really quick where to go for the cloth, which would be right in here. You talk to Peldes, And that's pretty much it as well. Same for so it's going to be the tier 7, tier 8 shit. Threads of Fate is where it's called. And then the only other place here is for the Warriors and the Death Knights, which is going to be straight in this little Magus building that I'm in right now. You talk to Dubin Clay and maybe even Griselda Hunterland. But those are the vendors that you'd go to, guys. Turn in your Ulduar gear, your Naxxramas gear, tier 7, tier 8, regardless. That's where you would go. Hopefully that was clear for you. If you have any comments or feedback, leave it below. And we'll see you guys in the next videos. All right.